We've given ourselves mountains to climb these last 2 weeks that are too big for any team. No matter how good the players are in the room, we've given ourselves way too much work to do.
What is the number one fix that you feel you need to get right in this team as quickly as possible?
The physical intensity that we brought wasn't near the level of Ireland's, and that's something we've addressed today. And I think once you've got that, other things fall into place a lot easier.
You much prefer these performances to happen now than you would in a year's time, or indeed, God forbid, at a World Cup.
After the Scotland game, Scotland players said that they didn't want to let Gregor down. There's obviously a lot of noise at the moment. Do you feel like that towards Steve as a playing group?
I don't think anyone ever wants to let anyone down.
Let me make this so clear. No one will be feeling any worse than those individuals. Like, we've rubbed shoulders with the best goalie. We've played against the best. Like, the biggest critic is yourself.
Yeah, that was the first message I came on with, was the big message.
Lads, make me look good.
Yeah. Do me a favour, please.
You know, England got to get to Italy. Italy is so improved now. Like, that's a big game. It's a huge game.
Lose 2 games and the outside noise can make you feel like it's the worst thing in the world, but rewind the clock to autumn and you've won 12 or whatever on the bounce, or 11 on the bounce, and the outside wants to make you feel that you're the best in the world.
Do you think this is a crisis moment in the England rugby team?
We have a very special episode for you today.
Yes, we do, Ben. We are at Pennyhill Park, which is where the England rugby team have their training base. And we're both back here. First time you've been back in 3 years. First time I've been back in 12 months. And it was a bit strange coming in, wasn't it?
Very weird. Like pulling up, parking up. Yeah, it felt odd. Well, we are going to get to chat to a couple of England players. We don't know who they are yet. And on the back of the result of the weekend, you kind of feel a bit sorry for the lads having to be rolled out for media, mate. It's not the easiest. We've been there ourselves.
Oh, yeah. As a player, the last thing you want to do is really talk to the media. But I think you are contractually obliged for the Six Nations to do it. And also it's an opportunity to get out the message of, what's the team's been up to and how are you going to move it forward, and, talk to the fans. So obviously there is interaction and there's lots of interest in what's going on. So, yeah, as players, it was tough and it wasn't particularly enjoyable chatting to the media. It almost felt it was like an extra bit on top of, your job, especially after you've lost. It was kind of like you get rolled out and you think, don't really want to be here. But at the same time, there is an opportunity to, not move the messaging on, but like it's an opportunity to change the narrative of it when you do talk to the media and what people say and listen to. So, yeah, it'll be fascinating to hear what the guys have got to say.
Now, we don't know which players we're getting, of course, Coley, but they are obligated to do broadcast and written media, but they don't have to see us. So it's great that they are. And thanks to THBs out there, because, we've got a great audience. And part of that is we can give you access. So looking forward to hearing what the lads got to say about the weekend and the week ahead and everything involving a fallow week.
And if you listen to this on Spotify, please give us a 5-star review and send it to a mate or someone you think might be interested, because it should be a really good episode.
It's been 4 days since England-Ireland. We obviously did an episode about it. How do you reflect a few days later? The feelings still the same?
No, I think the feelings have slightly tempered down a bit. I watched it again and I spoke to some people, etc. And I think the performance is, you probably combine that with the Scotland performance and the frustrations of the carry-on. It probably led to a bit more an emotional feeling after the game. But I think if you take the games in isolation and you actually sort of look at the sort of the stats and how the teams played, I don't think England were as bad as we're kind of making them out in some regards. But then also, they obviously weren't as good as we have done and made them out to be in the previous sort of the 10-game winning streak, 12-game winning streak. So, yeah, it's one of those. How are you feeling?
I feel very much like what I discussed on the episode, Coley. I feel like there were some fundamentals to the game that weren't where it needed to be. And I think the thing is with sport, it moves on so quickly. And this is the thing with the fallow week, right? And looking forward to chatting to the boys is players, they come and they'll do media and they'll speak to us and they'll share their thoughts. But their biggest way or their biggest expression of being able to actually answer all these questions and the things that I spoke about and the things that you spoke about is actually by going on the pitch again and showing it. So now you're in this limbo where you are essentially, Italy can't come soon enough for the team, but there's parts of their game that they almost need longer to prepare for Italy. So no, I still maintain what I said. I still maintain there was fundamental parts of the game that weren't to the level that one you'd expect the team would want to be at and should be at.
I think the frustrating part for me was England stopped themselves. And it wasn't like, if England played at their best and were beaten by Ireland who played better, fair enough, you take it. Whereas I think Ireland played well and took their chances, whereas England, but we've seen this England team over the past year or two, like the breakdown's been spot on. You know, the line-out's been really good. So it's almost that frustration of they didn't perform to their best, in which case, you know, because if they're performing at their best instead of them beaten, you're right with it. But because they didn't, there's a frustration of, well, why didn't they? And again, it's that sort of bit where that's the bit probably after watching it again is the frustration of, yeah, you just want this team to perform and be consistently performing well, whether it wins or loses. You want the performance to be pushing on, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I say that, and the bigger picture, if we're going to zoom out and look at the bigger picture over the next 18 months to the World Cup, you much prefer these performances to happen now than you would in a year's time, or indeed, God forbid, at a World Cup. You know what I mean? So therefore, there are positives in this, the players in this group that will, you would hope the whole group learns, and we've had it in our career where almost like you have a defeat and then you can reference back to that defeat in a year's time, or, you know, in 6 months' time, or in 2 weeks' time, where it's like, this is what's happening. We can make a difference. We can change it. And, you know, it becomes part of the sort of, not the narrative, but it becomes a chapter in the story of this team that you learn from, move better, and become better from.
Like you say, Colin, we've experienced bucket loads, right? You look at the run that we did in 2016, we were Grand Slam champions. 2017, retained the title. 2018, blown out the water, you know? Went on the summer tour South Africa, won last game in Cape Town, which essentially, you know, the coach was under the pump at that situation, won that game, autumn came around, performs in the autumn, and then it rolled into a World Cup year. And things can change, and it's almost like you say, it's what the thing is, I suppose, surprised me, you, and I'd say a lot of the fans, is you're never that good, you're never that bad, you're somewhere in between. But they've had a run of games where they've put results together, they got victories. But the thing is, it's just so uncharacteristic from those results of what we're seeing. It's the fact that it's not one part of the game that fell short. There are multiple aspects of the game that fell short. And I think that's the underlying frustration from not only watching it and obviously being pundits about it, but I believe, and what we'll find out when we speak to the guys, is those will be the frustrations as well, is you can afford to be off in one area of your game, right? Because the other areas, if they're strong enough, should keep you in the game. But what you can't do is be off in the breakdown, be off in the line out, like shoot yourself in the foot in terms of turnovers around the breakdown, turnovers around the ball, missing touch, and all these things accumulate to the end product of what you got.
One of the interesting things about being in a Fallow Week is the ability as a team, it'd be interesting what the fellas have to say, but to be able to cut out the external noise. I think you have to do it anyway as an international rugby player, is like you have to, and a rugby player in general, but like you have to be able to understand what's going on in the wider world, but at the same time you have to stick to your guns in camp and stick to the game plan and stick to the team, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of noise outside of Pennyhill that this is a crisis, and we've seen it in the media and the written media and stuff like that. Do you think this is a crisis moment in the England rugby team?
No, absolutely not. I don't see it as a crisis moment, but I do see it as a bit of a wake-up call in certain aspects. And sometimes you get humbled, you get grounded, and then it's what you do on the back of it. And I think that's the key, Coley. It's what you now do. And that's what we've got to see in a fortnight's time, right? Is what are the parts of the game that you've clearly worked on and done. So no, I don't see it as a crisis, not at this point. At the end of the tournament, I think we'll have a better gauge. You know, were the team able to reflect, learn, and do something about it for the final two games, or did it unravel? Now, we can't answer those questions until the final two games are done. But as I sit here right now, no, I don't believe that. However, I do think that there's flaws in the game at the moment that they're putting out there that have been really, really highlighted. And now, how quickly can they address them?
As we are here now at Pennyhill Park during the Fallow Week, put yourself back 3 years, 10 years, whatever you want to, how many years you want to go back?
26 Fallow Weeks we did.
Yeah, but put yourself in one of those as you're a player. What are you expecting from the guys that come in here? What do you expect to hear from them? Or how would you approach this situation if you're a player in camp?
I'd be slightly guarded. I wouldn't give away too much. I would accept.
Well, might as well go home.
I'd accept the responsibility of the performance wasn't where it needed to be.
You can say the performance wasn't where it's supposed to be, but everyone knows that, right? So how much as a player do you reckon you dwell on it and sort of go, it wasn't good enough, or how much is it basically like, let's stop talking about that, let's move it forward?
Yeah, and you do want to move it forward, naturally. I guess the thing you have is, when it's going great, right, everyone's still trying to distract you. You know, oh, it's great, you're flying, you're doing this. When it's going badly, everyone's trying to distract you. Either way, you're on this course and people are trying to pull you, left or right. So you've got to be really true to yourself. And the first person you've got to do is, what am I doing? What am I bringing this week? The second thing I think, Coley, that you've got to remember is there's also, you've been in camp for a long time. It's probably a bit edgy this week. So what you need to do is just try and keep that cohesion. There's also the worry of selection. Now, some players didn't perform to the level that they would expect. And no one, let me make this so clear, no one will be feeling any worse than those individuals. Like, we've rubbed shoulders with the best, Coley. We've played against the best. Like, the biggest critic is yourself, right? So there'll be players that, so of course they've got selection on their mind. It's an edgy week. They haven't got an opportunity to play at the weekend to try and get back out there. So there's a lot of things going on trying to distract you. The key thing this week is keep the cohesion. There's a lot of questions being asked. There'll be questions being asked amongst your peers within the leadership group, putting it on players. Training will be edgy and at a level that it needs to be at. And you've got selection in the back of your mind. And also you've been in camp for, what's this now? This will be week 4, like all together. So the big thing for me is, let's make sure that we keep the cohesion.
As well, I think, as a player, put ourselves in our situation. There's going to be feelings, whether it's frustration, anger, whatever it is, disappointment, embarrassment, but it's how you channel that into a positive thing. And also, you've got to remember, as a player, you're being judged, and you're being judged by coaches, because they're not looking at just the performance in the Six Nations. They're thinking, can I trust this guy to go to a World Cup? And you're away from home, you're going to be in Australia for potentially, whatever it is, 10 weeks or more. And it's like, if he throws his toys out the pram by a poor performance and doesn't train well, and he's a dick around the environment, can I trust him to go to Australia? So in the back of your mind as a player as well, you're thinking, if my goal is to go to the World Cup, if I'm picked or not, I have to put on a brave face. I have to go out there, I have to train really well, I have to be active in meetings, I have to engage with people, and all that kind of stuff. And then when I go to my bedroom, yeah, I can sulk and do that. But you know what I mean? You almost have to like front up, and as a player, it's a follow weeks are, I don't want to say that they're tough, but as you say, you don't know what the team is. It's not like you can get straight back on the horse and play at the weekend. You've got to go through the process of, I'm going to get picked, I might do this, but it's then also how you turn that into a positive, because also you want to win the next game.
I'd also say, Cole, if I put my playing hat back on and sat in there, and I know you'd be the same, right, is the weekend, when you play at the weekend, some of it is a product of what you've done during the week. So you'd have to look at, are we doing what we need to do at training? Are we setting it to a level it needs to be? And I think of the great players that we played with. Owen Farrell drove it every second he drove that training to an intensity, to a level that pushed players beyond what they thought they were capable of. You had Courtney Laws, like who didn't necessarily say a huge amount, but actions on the pitch, actions within training. Mako Vunipola, another one. Like we had Joe Marler, you know what I mean? Marler didn't say a lot, but you had certain personalities that drove training and had a level of what they did that was able to then put you in a position to perform at a weekend. So that's the other thing I'll be looking at. I'll be looking at, are we training at the level it needs to be? Is the games at the weekend a reflection of what we're doing during the week? Are we doing it enough? Are we being hot enough on the breakdown? Are we doing diligent enough at the line out? Are the aspects of our game, like, are the nuts and bolts and the fundamentals of our game being done and pushed and held at accountable level that it needs to be at? Again, you've got to look at that.
Yeah. And I would say, though, you can't just rely upon the leaders in the group.
That's everyone's responsibility.
So that's where, your leaders will lead, and maybe the first cappers come in and sort of they have to follow and keep your head down and just get on with it, because you've got enough to worry about being in a new environment, that kind of stuff. But it's a whole tier of players in the middle. And I think sometimes, we've been in a situation, you realise that when the leaders, it's quite easy as a team player to hide behind the leaders and go, you do.
Over to you.
Yeah, over to you. Whereas when those guys are, whether it's like a form or they're having doff day or whatever it is, you then realise if this team's going to be as good as it can be, us in the middle have to step up, and we have to play, and we have to, lead, and we have to take things on, like whether it's the breakdown or it's just a little, and I have to say something. And I think that's probably a big learning or one thing I learned in the careers, especially in the mid part of our careers, is like, yes, you might not be a leader per se, but you have a responsibility, and if something is off, you have to step up and say it and do it. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to rely upon the leaders. When we first came to the team, it's like, oh, World Cup winners, they'll do it. They'll deal with it. And it's like, when they don't, it's like, will we be able to do it? So and that's those things you'll learn in these defeats, I think.
The other thing there, Colin, we look at the leader or the senior players in the group, and we highlighted it on our review, and I spoke about it. Rule number one of being a leader is you have to perform yourself. And some of those guys didn't. So therefore, they're in a week this week where they probably need to bring it back to themselves a little bit. You know, when you give so much to the team and you're trying to make sure everyone else performs and everyone else is clear, you can sometimes easily as a leader forget about yourself. You know, what do I need to do? How do I be at my best? How do I make sure that I don't perform like that again? You know, and you're so selfless in the way that you trying to get everyone else ready, trying to help the team. Well, actually, sometimes you have to bring it back to, right, actually, I help the team most by doing my job and performing at the level that I know I'm capable of.
Oh, yeah. And that's where the great Julian Montoya, I remember at Leicester, you know, he's obviously the Argentinian captain and the rest of it, but he, I think in those weeks where he felt he was off, it's the power of delegation and going, right, I can't be the one that drives everything. I need, like myself, to step up. I need someone else to step up. I need, you know, he'd go sort of and select people to go, right, you're doing this week, you're doing this week, because I can't, you know what I mean? And at that point, you sort of respond and think, yeah, that'd be but as I say, in terms of the growth of a team, and we've had fallow weeks where you've come off losses, we come off victories, whatever you've had, but in the whole picture, you can learn a lot about yourself and move forward, and actually having a bit of breathing space in the fallow week can be great for that opportunity, because otherwise you're on to the next game, and you kind of not wash over things, but you're so focused on the next thing, you never can't address it. Whereas actually this fallow week comes at probably the perfect time for, say, the England team, because you can address what's happened, you can breathe, you can reassess things, and then next week you can focus on the game. Whereas this week you can, if there are bits and bobs where what happened on the field, communication, everything like that, you can address and talk, and you can see who steps up and leads in the week now. You
also have you have more time to have those like one-on-ones, to actually have video reviews to look all them, because as you mentioned as well, Coley, is so often when you're into the next game, you need a cut off. Like by almost sort of Monday afternoon, you have to be previewing the next game, where actually they can spend longer at like the nuances of certain areas of the game to make sure it doesn't happen.
You may have now noticed, and for the audio listeners you won't, but the third chair has appeared in the room with us because we have a guest joining us. And Ben, you'll be very excited to know we're talking to 6-time podcast guest, Ollie Chessum, Big Red himself. He loves it so much, he wants even more.
Big Red has gone, yeah, I'll go and see those two.
I'll save the team. I'll take this one for the team.
Yeah, I'll take this one for the team.
Again, I'll put myself in front of the team, and I will protect you from these two.
I saw Lenny's rant, and we'll get to the bottom of it.
What a good guy.
We didn't know who we're getting, and he's not just because he's a Leicester lad. It's actually, he's obviously one of the players up for media. I'd like to know from Ollie, from Big Red, what exactly has been said, you know, how the group, what's going on this week.
Yeah, and I'll want to know what's being reviewed, what's being looked at this week, and bits around the lineup.
Right, let's get him on. I think he's literally about to come in. Big Red, we'd love to sort of find out, post-game, Saturday, in the sheds, take us in there. What was said? What was the mood? Who took control of that situation?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of lads were, wounded emotionally. Obviously, we were gutted to have lost that game. But like the leaders sort of spoke, Mauro made a great point. Like success is never linear. It's always going to be ups and downs in rugby. You guys know, we've lost games before. You're going to lose them again. It's never nice to lose them back to back. But as bad as it is, it's never as bad as it always seems. So on Saturday night, obviously we had a few discussions in the change room. Obviously, you can imagine there were lads when we're not in a great place. So fortunately, we got to go home and sort of have a couple of days away from camp. And then we've come back in this morning refreshed and ready to get back together and crack on.
With time away from camp, are you in contact with coaches at all, or is it basically, are they giving you sort of time to mentally switch off? No,
they gave us the last 48, 72 hours, whatever it was, to just completely sort of decompress as lads that won't have been home since we started, obviously, because they've changed the format and they've had three games on the bounce. So it was nice just to go home. Obviously not forget about rugby. It's been pretty crap the last sort of 48 hours, obviously thinking about it, and you see little bits on social media, or you check the game and sort of watch the game back as you do, and it just, it's not great, but it was also nice to just sort of at some point switch off, see family, see friends, sort of just, enjoy some time at home before we got back in here.
Do you ever fully switch off though, Ches? Like I think of when we've been like, you're away, but you're not really away. Do you know what I mean? It's always on your mind.
We almost like counting down the days the hours almost till you're back in camp sometimes, aren't you?
Yeah, that's why I said like you're never fully off. Like you've obviously got to watch the game back, or for me personally, it's not been great the last sort of 48 hours or so. Like as in, like, I didn't feel like I had a great game, and I imagine there'll be a lot of lads that feel the same at the weekend, and that sort of can eat away at you. Sorry, but that's why sort of coming back in here and reconnecting with the lads and just sort of addressing it, ripping the bandage off if you like, and just sort of being honest and fair with each other, but also like constructive, and then you can sort of draw a line in the sand and start looking forward to next week and implementing those changes and getting your teeth stuck into whatever's next.
How much when you come back into camp then is spent, just for the listeners and viewers, is spent almost reviewing what's been done, and how much is spent looking forward? Because at some point you have to turn the page, don't you? Yeah. But you also use lessons to be learned from the first 3 weeks of performance. You have a bit of breathing space now. So talk to when you came into camp on the Tuesday night, whenever it was you came in, like what process was the first thing? You straight into review, or what was the sort of?
Yes, today's been a big review day really, but it's like, it's not just a review day where we sit down in front of a screen. It's like, this wasn't great. This was good. This wasn't great. These errors were good, but now let's go sort of start talking about them in the context of the Italy game. Do you know what I mean? And let's start, we've had a walkthrough, for example, this afternoon. Let's walk it through. Let's make sure that it's constructive. It's not just a sit down and a dressing down and, all doom and gloom. It was, we reviewed, like I said, and we had to be honest with each other, but then it's, we were up on feet and you're actively starting to make those changes. Obviously it was at a low pace, like I said, it was a walkthrough, but then, you're implementing those changes and you're starting to put them in together in a context of the Italy game in 10 days time or whatever. And we'll have an opportunity tomorrow to run at full speed and really test ourselves.
When you say your review, Ches, like is it a review of all aspects of the game? Is it dissected into attack, defence, set piece? And who sort of leads the review?
It was a bit more dissected today in sort of attack, defence, bit of collision work, but and the coaches that specialise in each of those areas will walk and talk us through them, and obviously lads contribute massively to that as well. But yeah, we can't review everything in a day, and you can't review everything every game, whether you win or lose. But you've got to pick out, those key areas that either we've had a recurring theme where we've probably not been where we want to, or that, like I say, in the context of the Italy game, are going to be massive for us in terms of trying to get back to where we want. And obviously the coaches will have, watched the game back, looked through that kind of stuff, highlighted which areas are going to, be most significant in the next week before we face the Italians and start to make changes and fixes to those.
Ches, you said you watched the game back. How do you do that? Is that pen and paper? Is it on your own? Do you turn off the commentary?
Well, this week was a little bit different, obviously, because like I say, we went home, but we have a platform which we can watch all our games back on, and the analysts here sort of code each second of the game. It's ridiculous the amount of work they do, but that means as a player, you can go back, you can watch the game back as a whole, just for the game, and see sort of as a team collectively where we weren't, quite at it, or where we were good. And then as an individual, you're able to go back and sort of just pick out your individual involvements and see, what you need to fix up yourself. So did a bit of both at the weekend on my own. I didn't, obviously left it on Sunday, sort of gave myself 24 hours to sort of cool off, if you like. I think that's also important to sort of give yourself that window. You never want to review a game straight after. You're not coming off the pitch and watching it again that night. I mean, some people are, the coaches and what have you, but as players, you want to decompress a little bit from that. And then, just watched it through on my own. But no pen, no paper, just watched it through.
And in terms of like how the lineouts then reviewed, Ches, is that you and Maro and Alex Coles and the throwers, or is it the whole pack? How do you review a lineout?
So there'll be bits around the actual technical aspects of the line out that are applicable to the whole of the pack. So quality of our jumping, lifting, the maul, stuff on the ground, deliveries, etc. And then there'll be stuff around the calling, the actual structure of the line out that's probably more relevant to the callers and the line out leaders. So that being myself, Mara, Colsey and Arthur in this camp. Sorry. So there'll be a bit of both. We'll have a unit meeting tomorrow morning, I imagine, and we'll highlight some things. Again, some positives, some stuff we need to work on. Obviously, the line out wasn't great for us for the first 20 minutes, but then we got some good pay out of them all at the weekend. So there'll be bits and bobs to review as a pack. And then as line out leaders, we'll probably sit down tomorrow at some point and start, constructing a menu and a structure to the line out plan for Italy the following week.
What's Steve's sort of attitude / has he been down, up? Is he positive? What's his approach been this week? He's
been methodical, really strategic, as you would imagine with Steve. Like even post game, I think a lot of people imagine that a team that loses at home, you go into a changing room and there's spit flying out of people's mouths and they give you dressing down. But he just sort of said to us, look, we've given ourselves mountains to climb these last 2 weeks that are too big for any team. No matter how good the players are in the room, we've given ourselves way too much work to do. And then today, like I said, it's been honest. We've had to watch a few clips back that you wouldn't enjoy watching back, but that's the nature of it. But then it's like, right, how do we get better with this? And what does this look like for us next week? And I think that's massive. Like the consistency of how the way the coaches approach these sort of things is huge for a team. Otherwise, if you're constantly up and down like this on a roller coaster or a yo-yo, however you want to say it, then it's no good for anyone. I think you could obviously tell today that we lost a game last weekend, but by and large, I think people should like a good environment. Whether you've won or lost, you should walk in on a Monday or a Wednesday, whatever it's today, on a fallow week, and almost not really be able to tell in terms of the way that how people are approaching certain conversations and how people are carrying themselves and the way that the team go into a training session. And, it was really good from the coaches.
Yeah, because that's one thing I think listeners, viewers will sometimes you struggle to get your head around, but just because you've lost shouldn't mean you have a conversation that's more meaningful than when you've won. It's that ability to actually have professionalism to, no matter whenever you win or lose, you review it just as hard. And that's one thing I think, I haven't been in this fight with Steve and everything else, is like the ability to, whether you won that game at the weekend, the review's probably still as thorough as it would be if you've won. Whereas some coaches say, when you win, it's fantastic. Let's just go out and train, lads. Whereas when you lose, it's we're going to be in office for 3 hours and chat through every moment and every bit of the game.
Yeah, they often say, don't you? Like you're most vulnerable when you're winning, really, because often teams can sort of paper over the cracks with those kind of stuff. Whereas that's why it's been really good here. Win or lose, we're as diligent in terms of our reviews and our preparation as we would be either way.
Is there any themes that you're reviewing that popped up after Scotland and now popped up against Ireland?
Discipline. We've had yellow cards, I think 2 yellow cards in the last 2 games. And when you're playing against top teams, that's going to cost you when you haven't got men on the field. So that's obviously a huge one for us. We need to bring that penalty count down, and that then changes the momentum of some huge or some key moments in that game at the weekend. And then there's obviously all sorts of finicky strategic bits that I'm sure you lads would love me to spill the beans on here. But by and large, a lot of it was our discipline.
After the Scotland game, Scotland players said that they didn't want to let Gregor down. There's obviously a lot of noise at the moment. Do you feel like that towards Steve as a playing group?
I don't think anyone ever wants to let anyone down, be it yourself or your coaches. And I think that's why the last 48 hours or so at home have been quite hard, because you feel like you have. But no one ever goes in, I think I've said it before on here, no one goes into a test match with the intention of losing or letting people down. That's why it hurts so much when you feel like you have a little bit. And that's why I think it's been such a good feel around today, really, in terms of reconnecting with lads, because like I say, it can be, you can get yourself in a bit of a lull when you're at home on your own. You've got too much time to think about it. Just to reconnect, it's never as bad as it seems. And everyone's looking forward to next week now.
Ches, how much of it is about making sure that you're aware of what you need to bring without getting distracted of a lot of noise around the outside?
I don't really think that comes into it because lose 2 games and the outside noise can make you feel like it's the worst thing in the world. But rewind the clock to autumn and you've won 12 or whatever on the bounce or 11 on the bounce, and the outside wants to make you feel that you're the best in the world. So I don't think that really will come into it. I don't think the boys pay too much attention to it. We know the people we got in the room, the talent we got in the room is good enough to beat the best sides in the world. We've not been where we need to be this last 2 weeks. So there'll be a real big focus on us, I can imagine, for this next week or so, how we're going to get back to what we do best and then take that to Rome. Is
the atmosphere different to what it was the autumn to what it is right now?
Well, I'd say it certainly is this week. That's what I mean. I think tomorrow's huge for the lads just to get back on the field and sort of draw a line in last week. The atmosphere this week certainly different. Obviously, we've lost two on the bounce now, and that's not nice. But in terms of the cohesion of the group and the connections we have as a group, no one's. I think that's what the world and people outside want you to do now. Is you lose a couple of games, they want to start, finding those fractures, those cracks, and everyone get a bit further apart, and everyone goes off on their own and tries to fix the problems on their own. Like I can tell you, for one, there's none of that in there. Like the lads are as tight as ever. Everyone's hurt for each other over this last week or two, and now they want to go fix it for each other.
And then just take the listeners and the viewers inside tomorrow's session, what that looks like. Is that at Pennyhill? Are you going to Twickenham?
I think we're going to Twickenham, actually.
Are you going to Allianz Twickenham?
We are going to Allianz Twickenham tomorrow, which again will be good. I think it adds a different energy to a training session when you're in a stadium. Feels a bit more match-like, change of scenery from where you've been training normally. And it'll be a big hit out for us. It's our only session on field for the week, so it'll be a real high intensity session. It'll be strategic. The coaches will make sure that we find ourselves in scenarios to try and fix the things that obviously we've not been good enough at this last week or so. And it'll be good for the boys to sort of like I say, draw that line under the sand, and it'll feel now that we're really starting our preparation for next week.
So obviously you've been put up for media.
Yeah.
How come you got this?
When you came into camp, right, and then you got told you'd have to do media, how excited out of 10 were you?
Like a 2 until I found out I was seeing you boys.
Before you found out you were seeing your old mates, you were like about 3, and then you saw us and you thought that's a 10.
Yeah, not ideal. I got a text off Tim yesterday. I was like, I'm in, cheers, mate. He tried to soften it up and butter us up a little bit, but yeah.
We were saying like, it's like you have to go and do the media stuff, right? You have to. It's part of it. Yeah. But there's certain weeks where you're like, I'd rather not be the one to have to do that.
Go on, mate. Into the, into the fire.
So that was Ches.
Big Red.
And I kind of got what the feeling I got from him is obviously disappointed, but trying to not dwell on it. And
for him and the players, it's a no-win situation. We've been there as well. Because if you come in here and it's like you're bouncing off the walls and it's like, everything's awesome, people are going to go, you're a prat. Whereas like if you come in here and sulk, people are like, you're a prat. So like what I'm saying, people will fit the narrative. As a player, they will fit the facts to their own narratives.
Correct.
And that's where I say it's tough as a player. And we've been there ourselves. Like you have to face the media, you have to answer questions, but at the same time you have to protect your team. You're in the team and you draw circle the wagons and you almost back questions away because that's the right thing to do. So almost like you say, sometimes we've been in press conference, haven't we, where it's like they're pointless having them because you just bat everything away. And it's about how can you, but at the same time, again, in today's day and age, you can't hide away from everything. You can't shy away from things as a player. So you have to answer it. But it's that balance of giving enough as a player, but also giving the bare minimum.
Yeah, and I think you've got to respect it, right? I get it. We've been there, Coley. I get it. I'd love to have prodded a bit more and got a bit more, but I understand, he's in England camp. They've had a couple of bad results, been a tough old couple of weeks. You've got to protect the team, and by protecting the team is probably not giving too much away.
As a player, you are briefed before the media, aren't you? Because there's certain themes you want to get out in the media. There's certain things you want to say, and you're sort of briefed on the overall themes, and you're also told how the outside world is perceiving you, the team, whatever, and how so you're not don't go into it clueless, but you also have to message to, because every time the players and the coaches speak to the media, you're talking to the fans, and you got to project the message out there. And as a player and as a team, you almost try and control the message rather than letting it run away with you. Have there ever been any times when you've gone in front of the media and either you haven't been briefed or you've just heard the brief and you thought, fuck it?
Yeah, you always do get briefed. Of course you do. Like, that's part of it before you go and face up or you do that. And, Ches would have had a brief before he came and joined us. He would have.
There are two prats in that room.
Yeah.
Don't give them anything.
Yeah, don't give them anything. And, like you think of someone like Genji, for instance, would have actually been genius. And maybe he's coming, I'm not sure. But like, he's going to shoot from the hip. The media manager can tell him this, that, say that. He's going to say exactly how he feels. Right, which is why people love him, and rightly so. I mean, we love him, but he's
also not stupid. Like,
he's also not that. Yeah. Marla is another example of someone that was very happy, just steering the whole thing the way where he wanted it to. In terms of myself, no, I was always briefed and everything like that. The one time I lost it, or not lost it, the one time I just thought I just don't want this right now. We played South Africa, and it was the second test, 2018. We'd lost the first test. Played the second test in Bloemfontein. We'd lost, and it was with Sky Sports, and it came over literally it was straight after the game, almost immediately. And I got asked, I think it was along the lines of deja vu or something like that, it's happened again. And it pretty much had, and she was right. And I just said, yeah, like obviously really disappointed, and we'll try and get it right next week, and walked off. I just wanted to remove myself from the situation, right? The emotions after a game, I can't describe to people. Like I can't give it justice. Like, you are doing something that you take so much pride in, so much goes into that game, that moment, that at the end of it, you're trying to process what's happened. You're trying to work out, why, what if, how comes, all these different, emotions. What did I do? Could I have done this? Well, the team were lost again. You got all those emotions going on. And then someone shoves a microphone, which is their job, which is fine, So I just kind of, I felt so angry at that point that I wanted to remove myself from the situation. So therefore I just kind of gave a really short answer and just walked off, because I didn't want to do it, And it is, you look back and you think, God, how cringe, I should have just stood there and faced it. But at the time I just was so irate that I just wanted to kind of remove myself from the situation. So yeah, it's, I look back at that and think, well, I should have stuck around and, answered the questions, but I didn't. But I only ever did it once. And
after this event occurred, what was the reaction from the media manager?
Not very happy. Not very happy. So that we ended up doing it afterwards, I think about an hour later. So obviously went in the change room, had a debrief and everything like that, and then I did it again. But at that point, the damage was done, right? So
no one knows about that.
No one knows about that. I don't think it even aired.
You'll be glad to know, Ben, I've just been told who our second guest is going to be. And you'll be glad to know that we've come all the way to Pennyhill Park to chat to Leicester Tigers' own Jack van Poortvliet.
Nice, mate. Do you know what? JVP's been so desperate to come on the pod that I reckon he's the only England player that's put himself up for media this week. It's like, Ben and Dan are in, Love of Rugby are in. Like, does anyone want? And he's like, yep, I want to.
Yeah, Ches has been on 6 times.
Ches has been on 6 times.
I'll have some
my turn.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually. We've literally got 2 Leicester lads that come and join us. I will say, JVP, when he came on the weekend, mate, thought he had a very good game. Very good game. So it'll be quite interesting to hear his insight of what it was like watching to then being suddenly like arriving into the match
his first involvement
early on.
It's his first involvement in Six Nations so far. I mean, he's been travelling reserve thing for the first couple of games, but so he had to be thrown in there early doors with Mitchell's injury. Yeah, he's sort of thrown into the fire a bit.
Ches gave us sort of a bit of a, not really post-game, sort of like what the last few days have looked like and what this rest of the week can look like. With Jack, I think we can really try and find out what was like in-game, what was happening in-game, what was happening half-time, what was the mood, then what was said after and all those bits. So
let's get him on.
Let's get him on. JVP, welcome to the Love of Rugby, mate. It's taken 2 years. We've finally succumbed, mate. Yeah. All those DMs, mate, we've finally folded.
I haven't had any DMs, mate. You know that.
No, we got told that when we got announced we were coming into camp, like the media man was like, Joe P, you're apparently straight up there saying that I want to go on. Just what we heard.
Yeah, I think I'd have picked better circumstances to come on than.
we didn't know, and then we're like, oh, we've got 2 Leicester lads. It's like smart there.
Yeah.
But mate, we appreciate you catching up with us. Breaking news, by the way, or news: Alex Mitchell's actually out for the rest of the tournament with a hamstring injury, so he is unavailable for the remaining 2 games. You actually replaced him in the 23rd minute at the weekend, Jack. How much of a heads up did you get up before you went onto the pitch?
About a minute before, I reckon. It was pretty quick. They said Mitch looked like he had a tight hammy, so they said just do some passing, and then within like a minute they went, no, I think you're on, mate. So it was a bit of I wasn't obviously expecting that, but it was one of those where you sort of come on, just do your job straight away. But it was obviously try and get her sort of trying and make an impact, and see the boys out of that situation. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it as well as we hoped, but there we go. Yeah, it was one of those, but didn't get much warning.
When you go on, mate, did you get a message before you go on, or do you like to have your own thoughts? If you've sort of seen the first 23 minutes unfold, is almost you don't want a distraction. It's like you know what needs to be done.
I think the coaches like Kev's on the sideline getting messages from upstairs, and he'll feed to you during the game. What the coaches are seeing, what they're thinking, and then you sort of. I mean, I was sat with like Marcus on the sideline, and we were talking the whole way through. So before I went on, I didn't get much. They said, "We know, you know what we've told you already." So then I think before I go on, it's just about me, what I'm going to do. But then with knowing the sort of general thoughts that the coaches had on where we were at.
Sorry, I was just laughing because your previous answer you said to go on and make an impact. I remember being told a similar thing by a coach. I went on and was absolute shit. And after just make an impact, I'm like, yeah, I made a negative one. It's fine. Positive. Yeah, brilliant. Right.
I had one, and they were like, stay to structure. And I was like, yeah, no worries. Literally like nodding my head, like, leave it with me. I literally went 20 phases, going nowhere. Did a midfield chip, they picked it up and scored. I was like, not sure that's what they meant. What was the mood like when you went on? Obviously, it was 10-0 down at that point.
Yeah.
How were the group?
Yeah, they were all right. I think obviously there was the air of frustration because just before that we'd had like 2 or 3 entries into the 22. We were like attacking pretty well, to be fair, at that point. And I think there was a small sense of frustration that we hadn't come away with what we wanted, but I think everyone was pretty aware of what we needed to do, and like the boys felt in pretty good shape. It was and then sort of backed up a few sort of errors consequently on that, and then we were in a lot worse spot. So the boys were in a good spot. It was just we didn't quite get it right with how we wanted to be in that sort of next block, which is pretty frustrating, but something we've looked at a lot today in the why was that.
When you come in on as a 9 and you say you look at that first, England obviously a lot of possession in the first 20 minutes of the game, and like you look at it in the breakdown, it isn't perfect, and England we haven't seen them at the high standards previously. As a 9, when you're coming on the field, what effect can you have, or are you looking to have for that attacking breakdown? Because everyone knows 9's one front football, that you want to be able to bodies out the line, attack and stuff like that. But when it's not going right, is that one of the first messages you're bringing on, or is it just sort of get up to speed and then gradually feed in?
Yeah, that was the first message I came on with. Was the big message.
Lads, make me look good.
Yeah, do me a favour, please. No, it was that was the main focus out of that sort of first 20. We'd given away a lot of ball in the ruck, and for me, it was to just try and reinforce that message. And there's not like, apart from giving the message, like it's quite a hard one to impact, but it's like any small bits of comms or things like as you get into a ruck, giving that messages of like whatever the language is that the side use, but about taking bodies to floor and things like that. Try and like give constant reminders to the lads as you get into a ruck and things like that. But it's just driving it really. And if you see someone not doing it right, it's about being upfront and or praising someone when they've done a good job on it. But that was the big message I came on with, to especially the Well, it was actually to the forwards and backs because we lost some edge rucks. So it was a bit of a team message, and definitely something we also addressed today in the review.
You obviously came on for an injury substitution. The other 2 were tactical substitutions, 3 substitutes before half time, Jack.
Yeah.
Do you feel like those ones that were done as a tactical, trying to like almost spark life into the team, or a bit of a wake up call for the team?
I think it's always like game context, isn't it? Like sort of, I think Jamie was a big one to try and help with like leading and getting the good messages onto the group about what we need to do next. But I think, look, it's nothing like, no one obviously wants to get subbed in the first half, and it's often like, it's not always necessarily that those guys were bad, for say. It might be something that, look, we're in a bad spot, we need a change. What sort of areas or what changes do we think are going to spark a change in the group? And I think that's what those changes were for, and they came on with positive impacts and positive messages. It was we just as a team didn't help ourselves in backing up errors and discipline and things like that then ended up just kept putting us on the back foot, and we couldn't find a way back from.
You've come on before in the first half for Danny Kerr in 2022 in Australia there. But obviously you're great mates with Freddie. Like how do you deal with that afterwards? Is it like from a friend point of view, or does he understand actually, no, this is purely tactical? What does that, I suppose the listeners want to know what that looks like.
Yeah, like obviously Fred's one of my best mates. So it's not nice seeing, obviously it's something you don't particularly think about during the game, but actually when we go back to Leicester over the weekend, it's something you just like, he's my housemate, but and like it's just like he's obviously frustrated by it. Like you never want to be coming off in the first half, but it's sort of like being there, maybe like helping him understand the why, and then also understanding that like he'll know if he wasn't at the performance level he wanted to be, that he'll be working hard and trying to put that right. But I think as a group, it's like, or it's like we're all here for each other. We're here for the purpose of the team. So you understand in the situation if it's believed to be best for the team, then you sort of accept it. But obviously he's not going to be happy about it. It's just sort of like being there for him as a mate and helping him want to improve and keep pushing forward and from it, like which he has been today, and it's the same with the other with Luke as well in that situation.
The thing is, on like a side note, like this is like I do think first half substitutions are going to become more regular. You've seen it with South Africa, you've seen it with Scotland, you've seen it with England, you've seen it with the Italians in the past. Like it's almost like something that's unusual now, but you might find in several years' time it's actually part and parcel of the game. You know what I mean? The more you think about it,
France do it, don't they, in the top 14? I was thinking actually, I've been there myself. I'm going to make it about me for the next minute. 2010 Grand Slam decider, Ireland away. I get sin-binned in the first half for chucking the ball in the crowd. Mate, I don't even get on. So when my 10 minutes is up, I'm thinking, right, I'm going back on. It's the first half. It's like, no, you're not. Danny's going on. Like, so it's tough, mate. Players have been there. Like, it's not easy, but as you say, like, you just want to make sure that they understand the why and the situation of that. I mean, I was hooked because I was fucking having a dreadful game. Freddie's might be more of a tactical because Mark's obviously come on and obviously you're chasing the game in that situation. Half time appears, you've just scored. Fraser Dingwall scores, of course. Getting into the sheds, was it chaotic? Was it calm? Give us a sneak into what that looked like.
No, I think was you boys will know with Steve, like no matter the situation, he's very consistent in his approach, especially like half time, full time, those kind of things. So look, we came in at half time with like a clear plan and clear areas that we needed to improve going into the second half, and we came in pretty positive. Like obviously we knew we weren't at the right spot, but we just got that try before half time. We thought, and there was a real belief in the group that we could turn it around, and the coaches reinforced that. We had like the plan, and obviously you come with the best ideas and things, and it was down to us to execute it. And straight away we put ourselves right under the cosh by conceding a line break pretty early in that second half. So we didn't quite get out right as a playing group, but like the feeling at half time was we were in a good spot, we could turn it around, and the frustration is that we didn't do that.
people often sort of expect the hairdryer treatment. It's almost like the old school thing. But like in today's game, it's almost telling you, because there are problems on the field, and it's like, well, if I could fix them, I'd have fixed them. But it's the ability of the coaches to come in and give you the feedback and actually what they've seen and the points are different, so you can go out in the second half and fix them. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Is like the change room now is a lot of the times you might have a bit of a Gia, but it's not like a hairdryer treatment. It's basically, we need to do this has gone wrong. This is how we fix it. Boom, boom, boom. Here are the solutions to the problems, and they're quite well, like we've rehearsed half times for me in regards to like you get 3 minutes here and that kind of stuff, but they're quite a controlled. Sometimes people think they're really chaotic and mad, but they're actually quite a controlled process, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's like the leaders go straight away and speak to Steve. And I think from that chat, they get a sense of, this is what we're seeing. What are you feeling on the field? And then you can then Steve knows how to approach sort of halftime, like in terms of what the group needs. I think that we'll always have the points of what we need to improve on. Like you split away into your units, like backs and forwards for 5 minutes, and then you come together as a team. But yeah, there's always quite a good understanding of where the team's at and what they need from the halftime. Because I know sometimes you do need a hairdryer, but often the case is.
Well, often it's not for a lack of effort, is it? Like sometimes you get a hairdryer
exactly.
when the team's flat, it's a lack of effort. But like often the problems you have isn't through lack of effort; it's through mistakes or a tactical issue that can be fixed.
So with that second half, that's like a little peek behind the curtain in terms of what half-time looks like. And you said about the start of the second half. Yeah. Then how do you deal with that mood? Because ultimately, from the kickoff, once again, like under the sticks, and then you're chasing the game and you're in that situation. Who takes control of that situation?
Well, I think like obviously, the key leaders like Jinx, Marrow, Fordy, often speak in those situations. I think once we were down and you knew you were chasing the game, it's like, right, well, the way in now is we either create turnover, work ourselves up the field, but as soon as we see an opportunity to go. We got to take our opportunities now and like chance our arm a bit, like you're chasing the game. So I think like we spoke about when we get the opportunity to go and attack, what we're going to do in those situations. We spoke like what we got to do defensively to stop them getting their speed of ball and things. So it just played like an address, but we had game context at that point. We knew we were down, but we also knew we had time to turn it around. And we knew that if we had our opportunities in attack, we had to take them. But it wasn't going to go be like kamikaze and try and give them opportunities. It was try and do it in the right way. But unfortunately, didn't work out the way we wanted.
Does the frustration come from knowing the solutions but not actually being able to then apply them?
Yeah, I think that's a big frustration. I think also the big frustration is like the times that when we shot ourselves in the foot, like we got ourselves in good positions. Like even in the second half, we had, I think it was like 2 turnovers in the 22 as well. Like I think, and it's always quite a hard thing, but when you keep repeating turnovers or like repeating like breakdown errors and things, like it's a hard one to like, because we've said it, and it's a hard one to then like keep repeating. That's probably the most frustrating things is we gave ourselves opportunities to turn it around, but it was the same repeated errors that like it sort of naturally wants to make like deflate you, and like we spoke about it not deflating us next thing, but unfortunately we didn't quite get the reaction as a group that we needed.
That feeling after and post game, what's it like in the change rooms after? Like what was said or?
Yeah, I think obviously, like as you expect, the mood was pretty low. It's, obviously a performance like that, 2 weeks on the trot, at home in front of your home crowd, we're obviously hugely frustrated, and it was a quiet changing room straight after the game. And like I said, with how Steve is at half time, he's always consistent at the end of the game, like win, lose. I think it was good, like there was a lot of emotions, boys were frustrated, but like the leaders spoke about. We won't say like emotional things now, like, because you're obviously heated in the moment of after the game, you probably end up saying the wrong things, or so it's like, we know we got it wrong today. We know we weren't as near the level we wanted to be. Make sure we were away for a few days, so make sure watch the game back, and we come in today full of energy to right the wrongs and understand what we did wrong, and make sure we have a reaction in training and a reaction into the last two games. So yeah, there wasn't like there was. I think Maro and Jamie spoke at the end, but yeah, we tried to avoid sort of too emotional sort of thoughts, and making sure we watched the game back and knew exactly what was wrong and how we were going to turn it around.
Does the fallow week make it harder or easier to deal with that result? Because if you have a game the week after, you almost review it like almost Sunday night or Monday, and you're on to the next game, and you can put it right. Whereas a fallow week, you almost have to live with, losing, and live with the disappointment, live with all the sort of, and also you're not around people to sort of share it in some regards, are you? You literally have to sit on your own thoughts. So you might speak to a couple of people. So from your point of view, the days afterwards, how did you manage those, and are you thankful to be in camp, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, I really didn't want to have the fallow week, if you know what I mean. Like, with how I am, like, I've just been home for 2 days, and you sort of haven't got a whole lot going on back in Leicester. So I was just sort of not doing a whole lot, thinking about the game and thinking, like, for me, I'd wanted to be straight back into another week. And obviously I haven't played all 3 of the first games, so I'm a bit fresher than most boys. So I feel like a few of them are pretty happy with the fallow week. But yeah, for me, I don't like just thinking about a game. It's almost like when you get to like losing the final last year, like you then sort of not got a game to go into, and you got that frustration.
He plays well, mate. You can point at him as well.
No, you losing. I had Coley losing.
Yeah.
Coley losing.
Yeah, you lost as a final. Thanks, mate. Yeah,
no, but yeah, there's just sort of not being able to train and put it right straight away is frustrating. So for me, I was tried to at home almost distract myself as much as I could, like get on with things at home. And I watched the game a couple of times back, and then sort of once I'd got the sort of what I felt the team needed to do better and what I needed to improve on from the game. I took that, wrote that down, and for me it was then like, right, that's sort of done. Now it's about like moving forward and taking the learning. So I tried to keep myself busy at home, but yeah, I'd definitely prefer to be training straight away and trying to put it right.
What is the number one fix that you feel you need to get right in this team as quickly as possible?
It's always hard to put it down to one, because I think there's a combination of things technically that we got wrong. But I think a big thing from the review is, as a team, that our physical intensity hasn't been there for the last 2 weeks, and it's something that like hurt watching, like today, and it needs to hurt to get a reaction. And I think the physical intensity that we brought wasn't near the level of Ireland's, and that's something we've addressed today. And I think once you've got that, other things fall into place a lot easier. The technical bits fall into place a lot easier. But there's a real frustration and hurt that we didn't bring that physical intensity that we wanted for the last 2 weeks, and that's definitely something we'll put right.
Is that a mindset thing, or is it something that could be done on the training pitch?
No, I don't think the boys' mindset's in a bad place, and like I think the mindset has always been good. It's about making sure now we've been training hard and we've been going hard. I think now it's that just keep reinforcing that training and make sure we get that response out onto the pitch, and whether that's what we need to do, whether that's more or less in training, but to make sure we have that physical edge going into the last 2 games is going to be the real big thing.
JVP, thank you very much. Best of luck in Rome, mate, to you and the team. And thanks for joining us. That was JVP. Very good to catch up with him. You can sense frustration and disappointment. Obviously, Alex Mitchell now being injured, you'd expect to see Jack play against Italy. I actually thought his impact the weekend. Thought he had a very good game, himself and Joe Hayes. So looking forward to see him play and picking his brains there, Coley. He did tell us a little story though after he left. Do you want to share it?
He did, yes. As you know, we have the RFU's new president in Finn Baxter, and apparently took it upon himself to be the proper royal correspondent. So he was in the change room afterwards and came up to JVP with Her Royal Highness and was, Jack, this is Princess Kate. And Jack was like, yeah, I know she is, mate.
In which he did that to every player.
Yeah.
So he's taken his responsibilities in this role very seriously.
Yeah.
Just in case any player was in doubt who that was.
Yeah.
He just needs to make sure.
Yeah. Maybe that's his new role.
Yeah. Good on Finn Baxter.
Royal correspondent, yeah. Well, I say, as I've said before.
And not easy because going in that change room after, we've been there, Coley. You don't want to speak to anyone, mate.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there, you want to, and Finn,
Yeah,
went above and beyond.
We've taken the mick, but fair play.
Yes.
Like, it's a hell of a job. I wouldn't want to sit next to entertain anyone for a period of a game and go into the game afterwards, but no, credit to the man. He did it well. So, yeah. But we can have a laugh.
Yeah, not with the elephant in the stadium, with the week they've had. Anyway, that was JVP.
Early in the podcast, you said this wasn't a crisis. Former England coach Eddie Jones has said in his Rugby Unity podcast, I felt a bit sick at the end of the game. I've had that feeling. The grey sky looks like it's coming down on you. There is an eerie feeling in the stadium. It's only half full, and the ones that are there are looking for a bit of blood. What was that like? And I don't think it's a fair comparison, but Eddie seems to think there is parallels to be drawn.
Yeah, Coley, look, I'll just reiterate what I said earlier, really. You can't, I don't believe you can draw any parallels right now to what Eddie said. I was there in the autumn. I played in those 4 games. We'd lost to Argentina by a point, we drew in New Zealand, we beat Japan, and we lost South Africa 27-13, I think it was. Then Eddie was departed ways with the RFU after that. I don't think right now you can draw parallels. I maintain what I said earlier. I don't believe this is a crisis. I do not believe that. I believe that it's only a crisis if we see the same thing happening in the next 2 rounds. And at the end of that, then you probably reflect and go, right, where are we at? Where are England at? What needs to be done and what can be done.
I think the frustrations from the weekend, potentially with the fans, is they expected to beat Scotland and Ireland, you know what I mean? And it was almost a frustration.
Or a reaction, at least.
Reaction, yeah. But the frustration was almost in the fact they didn't. Whereas, it's a short-term, it's a 2-week thing, frustration part, you know what I mean? Whereas, again, the performance wasn't where it needed to be. But I say the parallel Eddie's trying to draw, but it seemed to be a lot longer period of time. It wasn't just 2 weeks, it was, a year or so. Whereas I think this team, I say it's in regards to there's frustrations, yes, and as you saw fans leaving and that kind of stuff, but that's because Twickenham's really hard to get out of. But it's more of a short-term frustration in the fact that the expectation was England. No, it's probably rod for England, a rod for their own back, in fact. You win 12, because if you'd lost to maybe Argentina in the autumn or you'd lost in the summer, the expectation isn't as high. Whereas now you've won 12 and it's like, in England talk, we all talked up saying England Grand Slam, this kind of stuff. And obviously that England team isn't as far ahead as we thought it was, but it's not now as bad as everyone says it is. It's, somewhere in between. And you look at Scotland in isolation, that's a tough place to go and play. Ireland, yeah, should have been better, but Ireland caught fire, and and it'd be interesting again if you did this again and you actually put the Wales game in between them and played them there. Would the reaction be different? You know what I mean?
And we were not crazy, and nor were so many people in not thinking that England were heading into this tournament in really good shape. They'd had put a run of games together. They'd had some great results. You look at Scotland in terms of the autumn, they just couldn't get over the line. You look at Ireland, they look very uncharacteristic during their autumn campaign. So there was lots of reasons to be optimistic about this team. Scotland found form. Fair play to them. They really have. They turned it around. You look at Ireland, when their players needed to deliver, the big players, the Lions players, stand up, bring in a performance and remind everyone. They did. And that's sport. And that is why this is why I love this tournament, right? This tournament is absolutely brilliant. And how good, we've still got 2 more rounds. And you look at it from France got to go to Scotland, what a great game that's going to be. England got to get to Italy. Italy is so improved now. That's a big game. It's a huge game. I think Italy can get another scout before the end of the tournament. England have got to roll into town. Confidence a little bit dented. That's going to be a massive game.
Well, that's the thing
There's
as
so
well.
many, this tournament is just brilliant. I just love it.
The storylines, so not too far ahead, but the storylines England-Italy, it's almost Italy are going to be the favourites for the first time ever. And actually, you know how well England do when they're underdogs and come out firing. And, Italy, it's not often they're expected to be the winners. So it's going to be, there's a whole psyche around that part of the game as well, which is going to be fascinating to see.
Cole, we both worked with Steve Borthwick, both played under him, but obviously he had a big forwards role. So, you spent more time with Steve than I did. What are the type of things that he'll be doing this week and what will he be drilling?
I would say he will go back to the fundamentals of the game. With England's game, we said it before, set piece, defence, kicking. And I think, and also with the fundamentals in that, I think the fundamentals of defence is in around the ruck, individual tackling, body height and tackling. I think set piece, was all about the line out, the scrum's going all right, but Italy are really good. So, there'll be constant improvements there and what can get better. You talk about the kicking game, like whether it would be interesting if they adapt and go because everyone says England have everyone's caught up with England where they were in the autumn, so it's whether England can now kick on, like we've seen a bit like the French do. And if, final thing in attack, I think it's going to be the breakdown. I think, Steve put a massive emphasis on the breakdown, body height, the ability to hit things and affect the defensive line. And I think that's probably what's going to be coached over the next 10 days. I don't think England are going to revolutionary go, they're not going to change course midway through the tournament, kind of go, oh, actually, we just need to run from our own goal line. I think the overall theme of how they do it is going to be how they apply the individual details, and that'll be on the training field. I think, Steve, we've had it before, where it's like walkthroughs, it's body height at breakdowns. It's even if you're not hitting anything or clearing anything out, it's the body height, it's your intent, it's your mental processing. Like he used to hate and still does. People it's very easy to walk through. For instance, when you're in install, the first part of the week, a breakdown happens and you walk in and just touch it and stand there. Whereas he wants people in the correct body positions because it shows you're alert and you're thinking about it, even if you're not, the adrenaline's not pumping, you're not hitting things, you are thinking about it and do that mental side of the game. So when you get to the weekend, you can have the adrenaline going and you're not thinking about it. So I think there's those kind of bits and bobs. I think but a lot of it will be the fundamentals of tackle technique, breakdown, ball carry, and secondly, it'll be the bigger picture of where it fits all together.
And what will he be saying in terms of the conversation he'll be having one-on-one? Because when I think of Eddie Jones, Michael Checker, Andy Farrell, they'd be having conversations with me, all the time. You need to be at your best. I want you to be at your best. You're going to be at your best. And almost putting it on you, but then equally backing you to do it. I need you for this weekend, mate. This is what you're going to bring. Can you bring it? This is how you're going to bring it. I liked what I saw in training. Do that again tomorrow. Bring it the weekend. Drive others with you. That. It's almost like a running commentary of feeding you this information, putting it on you, whilst also almost massage you of you're going to do it. This is what I want from you, and you're going to do it.
Steve, again, there is a perception he's, it's all data and stats, but actually understanding the people, or what I had, my feeling with him was he knew what buttons to press, especially in the forward pack, in regards to, there are certain people he could go after, whether it was this week, it might be Genji, it might be just prodding Genji, because you can't just stand in front of the whole team and because I think in today's day and age, you've got young guys in the team, once upon a time, I reckon 10 years ago, we had it at Leicester in England, you could stand in front of the team and go, this is crap, this is not, and people respond. Whereas I think now a lot of guys will go into their shells a bit. So you have to, and that's the art of teamwork and that kind of stuff, and being a coach is finding what buttons to press. But I think there are certain people in the team, like your leaders, who'll probably be pressing, saying you need to be better at, whether it's a Genji, whether it's a Mara, and that feeds into the position. Whereas the other guys in the team, you can build up their confidence a bit, because they're probably, if they are down, you'd be like, look, you've seen how good you are, you need to get back to this. And, he's very good at showing examples. And one thing the deep thinker Steve is, and the amount of knowledge he goes into is it's all positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement. And I know he's told me about times when there's certain amounts of one piece of negative information that you need 5 or 6 positive bits of reinforcement to get out the mind of people. So it's all that kind of stuff, and he'll be switched on to that. And but at the same time, he'll have people in the team that he knows you can lean on, and they will lean on others to get the best out of them.
Andy Farrell always speaks about it's going to bring out the best in you, or make it bring out the best in you. I want the best version of you, and all those sort of terminologies. So would Steve be similar? Would he just pick them up one by one?
When I was last in the England team a year ago, it was about, when we learned a lesson up in Murrayfield a couple of years before, and it was basically about when you play with an England shirt, it's having a certain pride and filling the shirt and not letting the shirt be a weight on you and be overbearing and crowd you down. It's about being able to sort of, the shirt makes you bigger and you fill it and that kind of stuff. And that's talking about being positive and going out there and impressing your game upon the opposition and stuff like that. So yes, you know what I mean? He will be doing that and trying to make sure the team isn't, because England's a different beast to Scotland, Ireland, everywhere else, you know what I mean? The scrutiny you're under, the pressure you're under is different to those teams. And it's the ability of England, yes, and the young guys in the team, and even everyone in the team, is the ability to actually, you want to go out there. Because again, we've had it earlier in the thing with Don O'Callaghan basically saying that, he wants England to puff their chest out. But
escort everyone out of the way, escort everyone out of the way.
Well, he's the one person that said that. 99% of the world doesn't want England to puff their chest out because you label that thing. So it's how you do it. But no, Steve's, from when we were in that lesson, it was basically like, is being able to, yes, go out and be proud of what you do and be, have a certain positive way of going about your business and not being like thinking that playing for England, you have to cower away. It's actually bringing your talents to the table. And one thing he's, like we've said, Steve's really good at is the ability of, his game plans and stuff is to bring the X factor for like, he sets you up to bring your X factor, whether you're a winger that can run around people or you're a ball carrier, you know what I mean? It sets up, and that's what I'm sure he will be going after and trying to get people's X factor onto the field.
Because some players respond incredibly well when they've actually put under the pump a bit, when it's sort of prodded of like, I need your best.
Well, gone are the days and it's not just an England thing, gone are the days, as we found at the end of our career, where you can, I don't want to tire everyone with the same brush, but you can't just stand at the front and go, this is crap, because you lose the room, don't you? Like we had it towards the end of our career under certain coaches at Leicester, whereas they stand at the front of the room and go, this isn't good enough, blah, 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 blah. And half the room just goes, and you lose them. And I think that's whether it's a generational thing or not, some people will stand up to the fight. Like, I think about the teams who had like your Montoyas, your Visas, like they would happily confront the fight, but that's not everyone. You know what I mean? So you have to know your team and you have to work as individuals, and the best coaches around rugby will and do. And, and there are different ways of going about that. There's a quiet word in the conversation. There's a million different ways, but you have to know differently, because what works for you wouldn't work for me. Like, you might enjoy being praised and being told how good you are. No, thank you. You know what I mean? I might enjoy like the backing of, you're a good player, let's go out and do it. But telling me I'm fantastic wouldn't, you know what I mean? So you have to learn those individual roles, and that's how you go about your business.
Well, there we have it, Coley. 4 days after England-Ireland. And huge thanks to THBs, because without you listening and watching, we wouldn't be able to do like this. We wouldn't have the podcast that we have now been able to create. So huge thanks to you. If it's the first time listening, please like it, subscribe to it, comment, let us know your thoughts. And we've got a special episode again coming out in a few days' time. So look out for that.
For the love of rugby.